Okay, I'm going to get us underway. Welcome to the regular board meeting for October the 15th for the Sunrise School Division Board of Trustees. I'm going to call our meeting to order. We're going to have O Canada sung by Hazelridge School. Please stand if you can do so. Thank you to Hazelwood School. Appreciate it. We are going to have our treaty acknowledgement. I'm going to ask Trustee Rowan to help us with the treaty acknowledgement, please.
We acknowledge the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty 1 territory. We honor our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. We commit to moving forward in partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation.
Thanks, Melissa. So for the people that are online, my name is Paul Mang. I'm the board chair. And in the room tonight, we have Superintendent Reed, we have Secretary Treasurer Thiessen, we have Assistant Superintendent Fieldberg, we have Trustee Dent, Trustee Rowan, Trustee Rowland, Trustee Rowan, Trustee Nickel, Trustee Boydson, Trustee Wilson, Trustee Smith, and Trustee Harris with us, as well as that we have Sarah, our board support. We also have Wayne Lusk, did I say that right, from Myers Norris Penny with us. And we have Jason Ziprick in the room. He is the transportation manager. So if you're listening online or watching it online, that's who we have in the room with us. We're going to have the adoption of the agenda, so be it resolved the board approve the agenda. I need a move by Trustee Nickel and seconded by Trustee Wilson. Any comments to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll vote. Graded past 9-0. Thank you. So chair's comments. Please send any of your questions to jody.thiessen@sunrisesd.ca and your name and address put on the include in the email. And during our question period, we'll try to get to your questions that you're bringing from online. I'm going to open it up to share a story. Who would like to go ahead and share a story? Trustee Wilson.
On Monday, October the 7th, I met with Kristen Meads at the Winnipeg River Recreation Center. They offer a number of classes such as fitness and yoga, beadwork, a number of classes. The classes are scheduled at various times, and they're very numerous and would be interesting to a wide variety of ages. The one difficulty they have is finding appropriate free space so that they can keep the registration costs lower. And they've tried a number of initiatives to do that. We had an interesting discussion.
Thanks, Donna. Anyone else? Trustee Rowan?
Some of our middle school students from Enola, Dugald, and SMS will be attending Art Speak this week on Wednesday out at Camp Cedarwood. I've had the opportunity to attend Art Speak presentations in the past, and they've been fantastic. I hope the middle schoolers enjoy this fantastic opportunity. Springfield Music Parents Association will be meeting on Monday, October 21st at 7 p.m. in the SMS band room. This meeting is open to all parents with students in band in either SMS or SCI. Oakbank Parents for Ukrainian Education has their next meeting on Monday, November 4th in the OBE library. And given we won't be having another board meeting before Halloween, I would like to remind Springfield residents that high school students from SCI will be going door to door on October 31st in search of non-perishable food donations as they take part in Halloween for Hunger.
Thanks, Melissa. Anyone else? Trustee Nickel?
In Whitemouth, they are doing something different this year for Halloween. They're having a spirit week for the whole week. They're busy starting to plan now. It's all planned by the students. It's from K to 12. Usually, sometimes spirit week is only half the school, but this year it's going to be from K to 12.
Thanks, Don. Trustee Smith?
A few different things. Let's see here. Beausejour Early Years PAC. They have a few different things going on. They're looking into having doing a much lunch. It's an online platform for hot lunch programs. They're thinking about going with the online platform. We can pay for the pizza and Subway automatically, and you can pay for the whole year at once instead of just having to send the coins through the school division. So it's something that Gillis does already, so they're just looking into that process right now. They're also doing Maple Labels as a fundraiser. They're still doing their Subway. They're looking into doing QSP. That is the the magazine fundraiser that they used to do years ago. It was shut down for a few years. They're bringing that back. They have a new website. It actually just launched in the last week. So if you just go on to, it's on Facebook is where I found the link. So it's just EBEYS, and then you click on their Facebook page and you can find their new website. Their next meeting is November 12th at 7 p.m. I also, since a friend of mine's daughter is doing it, they have Edward Schreier, one of the groups, is doing a fundraiser for a trip next year. They're doing fall cleanups on your yard. So they're called the Rake Squad. So if you want your yard cleaned up, let's see, so, yep, October 19th and 20th, and also October 26th and 27th, and a rain date, November 2nd. So you can give a call to the Rake Squad at 204-268-3884, and they will come and clean up your yard. It's for donations, but they're all going to their trip to Quebec next year. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate it. Anyone else? I'm going to share two things. Reminder that we have a divisional PAC meeting on Thursday, the 24th at 6 o'clock right here. And that we've got a bunch of information that we've put together, so it's about trustee engagement. So great to go ahead and see. And I attended last week with Mr. Reed a Powerview PAC meeting that we haven't had in a little while, and it was great to see. There was 12 of us out there, seven parents that had children in the school, and it was great to see things going. So kudos to the Powerview PAC for getting back at it. And we also have a pretty important day coming up on Friday. It's our divisional PD day, where I think that we have roughly 700, 800, 900 employees coming in here to Beausejour. I do want to ask is that are there trustees? Can you just show by hand how many trustees are able to attend? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us that are able to attend. 7 of us. Perfect. Whether you can attend all day or... Oh,
I think we got all 9, didn't we?
all 9? I think, okay. Well, anyways, I think that we're pretty close. Can you just show me your hands again? We're just trying to get the information. Okay, so there's probably about 8 or 9 of us that are able to go. It's great to see. Trevor gave me about 25 minutes to talk in the beginning, so that'll be really good. So we'll see how that goes. Just kidding. But anyways, it's good to see. Anyone else share a story? Okay, thanks. We'll move on. We do have our an auditor's presentation, but I'm going to turn it over to Jody to introduce our auditor for us, and the floor is yours, Jody.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so tonight we have to present to the public our auditor report. We have Wayne Lusk from M&P. Wayne has been working with M&P and the school division for a number of years now. And this is, for myself, I believe this is audit number 3. So yeah, so my understanding is tonight you'll show us and talk a little bit about our Education Foundation presentation, or Education Foundation, and how the books were doing, and as well just our operating and consolidated statements. So if you want, let me know which one you want me to pull up on the screen, and I'll do that. Thanks.
Very good, Jody. The business education is a lot like my line of work, and commitment to lifelong learning. So tonight I learned something new, and that is, what is the favorite tree of a mathematician? That would be a geometry. So interesting enough. Maybe that ties into our discussion here this evening. All right, so with that, I'm Wayne Lusk. As Jody alluded to, I'm a partner in charge of the audit, partner at M&P, and I'm very pleased to give you a presentation here this evening, and thank you once again. So we will start with the independent auditor's report on the frame, and I'll walk our way through the rest of the financial statements. So looking at the independent auditor's report, I'll just read the opinion. In our opinion, the company and consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the consolidated financial position of the division as at June 30th, 2024, and the results of its consolidated operations, changes in net debt, and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. That's the exact report that we're looking for. Unqualified audit report is what it's called. So from there, we'll move on to the consolidated statement of financial position. Just looking at a high level, some of the changes year over year, starting with the financial assets, we note that the receivable from the provinces increased from 3.1 million to 14.2 million, and that's due to the changes in the funding mechanism this year. Manitoba school tax rebate is now considered provincial government funding as opposed to municipal reporting. And so as you move down through the financial assets, you'll see the municipal government has decreased in the receivable from 20,761,000 to 11,153,193, and that's for the same reason the Manitoba school tax rebate has now been moved from municipal line to the provincial line in the amount of 10,050,496. So looking at the rest of the financial assets, they're all fairly consistent year over year. Moving on to the liability section, we see an increase in the overdraft to 17,916,000 compared to 13,997,000, just the timing of how cash has flowed through the division at year end. Accounts payable are up to 1.5 million compared to 762 in the prior period. Accrued liabilities are also up 5,295,000 compared to 2,449,206, and most of that is retro pay estimate. Employee future benefits is up to 1,287,000 compared to 835, and this represents non-vested sick leave, 700K, along with other employee benefits. Accrued interest payable comes in at 390,000 compared to 366, and other due to various levels of government is very consistent. Moving on down to deferred revenue, we can see that it's down from 1,054,000 to 320,000 this year, just due to the timing of funding that usually is received between June and July of any particular year. Borrowings from the provincial government come in at 40,516,000 compared to 41,658,000, just representative of the net payments and new debentures that have been received throughout the year. Other borrowings come in at 523,937 compared to 1,284,247, and is just being reflective of payments over the year. Asset retirement obligations, estimate of a future obligation comes in at 3,089,369 compared to 2,810,954 in the prior period. School generated funds liability
comes in at $14,934 compared to $18,966, which is being reflective of the cash funds that are being held by the division and are considered a liability as those funds are not the division's. Non-financial assets, net TCAs, they're called, $59,378,900. This year's balance compared to $56,418,787. This is net of additions of $5.9 million of new assets this year, offset by depreciation at $3.6 million. Inventories and prepaid have remained consistent year over year. Accumulated surplus is down from $16,294,53 to this year's balance of $14,945,66, representative of the deficit of $1,348,987 that has occurred for this reporting period. Moving on to the consolidated statement of revenue, expenses, and accumulated surplus. So we can see our total revenues are up to $81,455,75 compared to $80,168,82. Most notably, the changes are in the provincial government and municipal government lines, and for the same reason, the accounts receivable on the balance sheet changed with a reclassification of the Manitoba school tax rebate of $10,050,496, moving from the municipal government line up to the provincial government line. And that's reflective in the increase of the provincial government line to $53,953,000 compared to $43,860,000 in the previous year. Municipal government line, the same token, is down from $34,123,000 to $24,553,000 in the current year. Other sources of income have remained fairly consistent, and most notably the other sources of revenue is up to $815,000 compared to $444,000, and it's reflective of a $567,000 gain on modular classrooms during the current year. Expenses, we can see that they're up $82,468,562 compared to $80,130,742. That's an increase year over year of $2,337,820. Comes to our current year surplus before non-vested sick leave of $1,013,487 compared to $37,340 surplus in the prior year. Add that to our non-vested sick leave expense of $335,500. We get a current year deficit of $1,348,987 compared to a surplus of $87,134 in the prior period. Add that to our opening accumulated surplus of $16,294,53. We get closing surplus of $14,945,066. Moving on to our consolidated statement of change in net debt. Continuity starting with net surplus and deficit, adjusted for tangible capital asset calculations, whether that be depreciation, acquisition, or gains and losses on transactions in tangible capital assets, adjustments for changes in inventory and prepaids, and we come down to an increase in net debt of $4,468,576, and that's added to the opening balance of net debt of $40,698,732, come to our closing net debt of $45,167,308. Under our consolidated statement of cash flow, which basically gives our closeout's version of how the cash flowed through the division throughout the year, broken down into operating transactions, capital transactions, and financing transactions. You can see our operating transactions, we generated cash of $3.8 million compared to $4.4 million. Capital transactions, basically the acquisition of bricks and mortar, used cash of $5.8 million compared to $10.7 million in the prior period. And financing transactions, which is predominantly the change in the borrowings. So any new net borrowings minus the payments, we come up a usage of cash of $1.9 million this year compared to $467,794 rather of cash provided through financing in the prior period. You add those three components together, you get a usage of cash of $3.9 million compared to $5.9 in the prior period. Add that to our overdraft at the beginning of the year of $13,997,158. We get closing bank of $17,916,32. And that ties into our bank indebtedness on the financial statements. And we move into, excuse me, The notes to the financial statements. Significant accounting policies and nature of organization and economic dependence. There's not a lot of changes there, so we'll move on to the government transfers note. The government transfers note this year was impacted by an adoption of a new revenue policy, that being performance obligations. So there's no metric impact on the school division. It was only a policy change, so it's been disclosed here in the policy section of the notes. Moving on to note 3. Note 3 discloses the change in the accounting policy. So PS 34 is the section for revenue, and the statement that there was no material impact on the financial statements from the prospective application of the new accounting recommendations. Note 4 goes into overdraft, and a statement of the fact that we've got a $27,500,000 overdraft, repayable on demand, and the interest rates repayment terms are disclosed. Note 5, employee future benefits disclosure, and the fact that employee future benefits expense tallied $848,460 for the year compared to $411,033 in the prior period. And the fact that employee future benefits recorded as a liability represents the non-vested sick leave payable as well as mat leave and parental leave payable for administrative employees. Note 6 gets into further disclosure on deferred revenue, the various programs that are in play, totaling a balance of $320,243 at year end. Note 7 talks about school-generated funds liability, the amount we talked about on financial position for school-generated funds that are in the deposit of the school division but are a liability, as the funds are not the divisions. They're amounting $14,934 compared to $18,966. The debenture debt, you can see the total payments from 2025 through 2029 totaling $19,168,613, along with repayment terms and interest rates. Note 9 is other borrowings, and the repayments over the next upcoming 3 years totaling $904,092. Note 10 gets into asset retirement obligations, so details on how that obligation has been built, starting with the balance at the beginning of the year, adjusted for accretion and discount rate, coming in at $3,089,369. And note 11 gets into disclosure of net capital assets, and a note that on page 23 of the full frame statement, all the net book values of all the categories are disclosed in full. Note 12 is accumulated surplus, as these are a consolidation of all 3 funds, that being operating fund, capital fund, and special purpose fund, totaling $14,945,066. They're broken down for the user's need there. Note 13, municipal government. This is further disclosure on the revenue and receivable related to municipal funding. And you can see the revenue coming in at $24,000 versus $34,000, and the receivable coming in at $11 million versus $20,000. And that's due to the grant changes and how the funding's moved from the municipal to the province on a line-by-line basis. Note 14, interest received and paid disclosure, broken down by funds, that being the operating fund and capital fund, for a total of $2,462,337 compared to $2,039,319. And a note that there's an accrual set up for interest expense of $390,342 compared to $366,448. And also the note goes on to say that there's an offset on the receivable from the province for the same exact amount as it's funded fully. Note 15, expenses by object. This is a requirement by the framework that the school division uses, and that's PSAB accounting. And the requirement is to disclose expenses by object, and object being salary, bad debts, interest, payroll tax, that type of thing, versus the disclosure requirements for the frame, which is by function, but the totals are the same, with the actual coming in for 2024 at $82,468,562, and the comparative figure for 2023 amounting to $80,137,42, with the budget column being for the operating fund at $74,841,554. And that's noting that it's for the operating fund and not consolidated, as it does not have amortization and other capital items and school-generated fund detail in it. Note 16, non-financial information, so there's various stats and other types of data within the frame, and just noting that it's unaudited and has been presented for information purposes only. Note 17, capital management. So the division's objective in managing capital is to ensure the expenditures closely match their revenues. Just noting that the various consolidated equity comes in at $14,945,66 compared to $16,294,53 in the prior period. And note 18 is the commitments note. So generally accepted accounting principles will require you to disclose the future minimum operating lease commitments. And these have been disclosed for the next 5 years here in this note 18. So that's frame statements in their entirety. And I would note that we've done 2 separate audits for the one for the Ada and Dyson Hewitt Scholarship Fund, and the other one for the Sunrise School Division Scholarship and Donation Fund. And I'll note that they both have clean audit reports. They have a qualification for the completeness of revenue, which is very, very common for all non-profit organizations. So otherwise, a clean bill of health for both of those entities. And that would bring my presentation to a close. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Wayne. So I'm going to ask for questions, but the music to my ears and to people that are listening is probably the last few words that you said, is that we've got a clean bill of health, as in we're using proper accounting procedures and our ducks seem to be in a row. So thanks. That's something that we all want to go ahead and hear. Are there any questions that anybody has for Wayne? Okay. Well, Wayne, certainly on behalf of the Board of Trustees, we appreciate the work that you do, and that it's always a great relief when the clean bill of health comment comes out of your lips, and for the 9 of us here saying is that, hey, we're in a good financial status as to with regard to an audit. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul. My pleasure.
And of course, stay for the rest of the meeting. We know that you want to go ahead and do that. I'm just kidding you, Wayne. Thank you very much. We appreciate it, and safe ride home. So we have then, to follow up from this, is that we have a couple of motions. Be it resolved that the board accept the draft audited financial statement for Sunrise School Division to June 30th, 2024 as presented. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Wilson and seconded by Trustee Boytson. Any questions to this? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. Passed 9-0, thank you. We have a second motion. Be it resolved that the board accept the draft audited financial statement for the Ada Dyson Hewitt Scholarship Fund to June 30th, 2024 as presented. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Rowan and seconded by Trustee Dent. Any questions to it? Hearing none, we'll vote then, please. And it passed 9-0. And the other one, be it resolved that the board accept the draft audited financial statement for Sunrise School Division Scholarship and Donation Fund to June 30th, 2024 as presented. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Rowan, seconded by Trustee Rowland. Thank you. Any questions to it? Hearing none, we'll vote. All right, so that's good in getting everything done with our audit. Nice work, Jody and team, for getting that completed. Jody, I'm going to let Trevor, while you're just away from and talking with Wayne, I'm going to let Trevor introduce our next presentation that we have.
Yeah, we're welcoming our transportation manager, Jason Ziprick, this evening. He's going to give us a presentation on the operations of our transportation department. And just, one of the things that I know it's worth noting is we are one of the busiest, if not the busiest, transportation department in Manitoba with the volume of kilometers that our drivers drive each and every day and over the course of the school year. So excited to hear about the department. Thank you, Jason. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much. It is great to be here, and when I talk to my peers across the province about the fact that I have the opportunity to share with the Board of Trustees at least once a year, many of them say, "Oh no, I would hate to do that," and I say I cherish the opportunity to talk about what my team does, talk about what we do, share our success, and talk about our challenges. So I do look forward to coming here every single year and giving you a brief update on how we are doing. As Trevor said, we bus 4,000 students every single day, and that is amazing. When you think about it, we pick up 4,000 packages, children, living, breathing children. We pick them up every single day in the morning. In about a 2-hour span, we are picking up 4,000 kids, bringing them to school, and then we do it all over again every single day. At the end of the day, we take them home, and to the tune of driving over 2 million kilometers a year. So I'm very proud of our team, and I'll talk a little bit about the first 2 months. I don't know who's working the slides. There we go. The first 2 months of the school year, and before we can even have 2 months of the school year, I have a team of people, myself included, that work all summer. So our school year starts on July the 1st, and we are going all summer. We are hiring drivers, we are fixing buses, we are planning routes. So all of that work gets done before the drivers show up at the end of August to pick up their bus and their run sheets and their maps, and start getting ready for the kids usually about a week later. So kudos to that team of people. Everybody often thinks about the transportation team as bus drivers, and they are a very, very important part of our team. We have well over 120 of them, so they are the bulk of the team, but our 3 secretaries and our 7 mechanics and our 1 driver trainer, they are incredible team members who work very, very hard to keep this thing rolling throughout the year. So I will always talk about hiring of new bus drivers because our success is really based upon the hiring of new drivers at a steady pace. Since the end of last school year, we've onboarded 7 new drivers and have about 5 waiting for testing at the end of October. So one thing to note is not every driver that we hire wants to drive every single day. Right? We bring on drivers who may only want to drive every Friday or every Thursday. How it matches their current schedule. So we understand that if you are a spare driver, they are doing that to fill their day, not necessarily to drive a route every single day. So we've had some churn with drivers leaving for full-time positions elsewhere, with the understanding that driving a bus is a part-time job. So we've lost a few folks this year already who've gone on to full-time jobs, and great for them. Sometimes driving a bus is just filling that gap between jobs, and we're fine with that. Our average has been 5 to 7 drivers off every single day, so that just speaks to the amount of spares that we need. And then we have the geographical challenges of obviously spare in Oak Bank probably is not doing Powerview a lot of good, right? Just because it's too far to drive to be a spare there. So one thing that I will note, we have a long-time employee, a mechanic by the name of Ernie Zirk, who's been in the hospital for some time now, and he's got a bit of a journey ahead of him. So we're keeping him in our thoughts and prayers. He's been with us for over 25 years. Retirement was on the horizon, and we hope that he'll get a chance to retire at some point soon. So here we go. The first 2 months of the school year, we're trying something new. We've bought some space in our local arenas, and we're happy to support our local community centers and arenas. And we've put up some pretty large signage in at the top there, just above the McMunn and Yates, that's Beausejour. Just below that is Hazel Ridge. In the middle is Oakbank, and then on the side is Powerview. And I don't have a picture yet of Lac du Bonnet. I'm waiting to get that, but I believe the sign is up. So again, it's just one more thing that we're trying to get eyes on the fact that we are actively hiring, and you know, perhaps the hockey and ringette parents would be interested in spreading the word or driving a bus. So we are trying everything that we can to get the word out there. So usually at the beginning of the school year, we allow parents to submit non-eligible busing requests. So what that means is if parents live inside a walk zone and they're not eligible for busing, they can submit a form, and we will look at that form at the end of September once we have all of our buses full with our eligible students and new registrations have settled. So this year we had 35 requests for busing, and we were able to accept 15. Last year we had more requests and we were able to accept a bit of a higher percentage of students. It just speaks to the fact that we've got some very, very full buses this year. So by area, Oakbank we had 15 requests and we were able to approve 7. Dugald, we had 1 request that we were able to approve. Gillis is a very high request area, and unfortunately we're only able to approve 1. And in Beausejour we could approve 6 of the 8 requests for non-eligible busing. And really it just speaks to we have a bus that has some empty seats. We always reserve some for growth in the area of our eligible students, but if we have some empty seats and somebody is asking, we start at the youngest age, kindergarten, and we'll add those students onto the bus as we can. So again, another important piece of our transportation department is our buses, obviously. So we purchased 7 new buses last year, and the good news is that 4 have arrived at our dealer in Steinbach, and 3 or more are en route from the States. And so we should have some to our garage for the two-way radio and GPS installation in the next couple weeks, and the goal would be to have them on the road by mid-November. So this year we ordered 3 77 passenger, 2 65 passenger, 2 53 passenger, all gas models, and those will be deployed likely not in the Beausejour area. That's where we put a few of our new buses last year, so these will go to other areas depending on the needs and the age of the buses and what we're dealing with at the time when we get these buses. So that's a very quick update. Any questions?
No, thanks very much, Jason, for this. Anything for Jason as to where we are? Trustee Rowan?
Thanks for the presentation, Jason. I'm glad that you alluded to part of that process and why our non-eligible families aren't hearing until the end of September. I have heard from a number of families that waiting period can be a little nerve-wracking and can be quite long. Do you find that you're getting a lot of requests as it gets even still later in September? And I guess I'm just asking because some of the parents have asked me why that period's so long.
So most of our non-eligible requests come in, throughout the summer and at the beginning of the school year. And, we just have to hold on until the end of September because we get so many registrations that come in still. The, second, third, fourth week of September, we're getting registrations from eligible students. So we have to have that month period to get all of that kind of settled down. We can get everybody who is eligible on a bus. And then, this year, I think it was the last week in September, we were able to notify those parents if they got on a bus or not. I know, it's 3.5 weeks of waiting, but, I just don't think it would work to go any sooner because we just wouldn't be able to give an accurate, we could give everybody the answer of no, right? Just because we'd have to wait because we get so many late registrations coming in from families who are still moving and getting settled during the month of September.
Thanks for that, Jason. I just thought that it was important that everybody gets to hear all that information.
And they also have to realize that if a family that moves in is, they can get bumped off too.
That is correct, right? And that also, puts a lot of anxiety on the parents knowing that. So that's why we try to hold back enough seats to handle any new families that are coming in, right? It's not an exact science, but we kind of look at it and say, okay, we know how much growth is in certain areas, and the area like Tyndall, it's booming, right? There's new houses going up all the time, so on those routes, we probably hold back a little bit more, knowing that, okay, we take a drive by and we see, okay, there's 4 houses that are probably going to be moved into in the next 3 weeks, next month. Probably there's going to be kids there. So those ones we try our best to not put families in turmoil and put them on a bus and then have to take them off again, because that's not helpful either.
Excuse me. Anyone else? Trustee Rowan?
If you're able, Jason, could you give us a rundown of our current bus complement? Are there new ones added? Like how many diesel left, how many electric, and we have 4 propane still?
The majority are still diesel, right? We have a lot of gas buses, right? Everything that we've purchased in the last, I would say 4 years have been gas or propane. We're sitting with, I think it's 6 propane buses, and like I said, these 7 will be gas. I'll get you the exact breakdown. I can send it to Jody and she can pass it out. I don't have all the numbers off the top of my head, but we haven't bought we bought 1 diesel bus, I think, in the last 5 years, and the rest have been all gas or propane. We have 90 bus routes, so each of those will have a bus assigned to it, and then we have probably about 25 spares, because we have to bring in, every month we're bringing in 20-some buses for safeties, because we have to safety them every 6 months. So we need to have that number of spares for our safeties, and then for obviously repairs that aren't planned.
I kind of like that, repairs that aren't planned. You didn't use another word, you used repairs that aren't planned. That was a good one. I'm going to use that sometime. Anyone else? Okay, Jason, so now you have the ears, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to answer a question, and hopefully somebody's prepared you for this question. But when we get schools or departments here, and you've got 9 trustees in front of you, what do you need?
Well, I'm going to thank you for your support, right? And the fact that, this year we have 7 new buses coming in is absolutely incredible. And the highest priority thing right now is continue to believe in me as the leader, right? I take this job very, very seriously. I love this job. I wake up every morning excited to come to work. So your continued support is certainly cherished. But obviously, just the continued funding of new buses, right? We need to continue with the 7 buses, probably for sure for the next 2 to 3 years, because our fleet is old. But this injection of 7 new buses is going to help us. The fact that we drive 2 million plus kilometers a year on mostly all gravel roads, and you've driven on our roads, right? You folks live in the area. It beats the buses up, right? And those buses are not made for this, right? They really aren't. They're made for smooth California roads that are temperate climates. And that's not what we have, right? So our buses really take a beating. We've got a great mechanic team who fixes them and repairs them and keeps them rolling. But we do need to acknowledge that we go through buses and we lifespan of our buses is, it's not 15 years, right? Because we are driving them on surfaces that are not meant to be driven on. So thank you for that, right? I think if we can continue with the purchase of the 7 buses, and I'll come back in January and give you the numbers and give you the facts, but that really is a huge priority right now, is just to continue funding our fleet.
Thank you for that smooth California roads. I can remember that one. And you can't come back in January because this is the only chance you got. So you're, no, I'm just kidding you, Jason. Thank you very much for this. We appreciate the work you're doing. I think on behalf on all the board, when you're transporting 4,000 children, they're our most precious. Yeah, I don't want to say that. They're very precious to every parent that's around here, and we're transporting them, and we're getting them there and home on a daily basis, and the millions of miles that we put on. You know, kudos to you and your transportation group. And I know that Trevor is looking extremely forward to this winter, about getting up early in the morning with you to go ahead and make some of those tough calls. And I think that you know what, we all think about you, you know, when those tough calls are being made, and yeah, those aren't easy as we come up through the winter. So kudos to you and your team, and obviously the conversations that you're going to have this winter with Trevor about our roads. And again, at the end of the day, it's about you know, making sure we can get kids safe to and from school. So kudos to you and your team for you. Anyone else want to add anything? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you to extend our thoughts to Ernie at this time and let him know that we wish him a speedy recovery.
Thanks, Diane, for that. Appreciate it. All right. Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate the work, and we do value the work that you do, so thanks. We're going to move on. We've got our regular board meeting minutes, so be it resolved that the board adopt the October 1st regular board meeting minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Smith and seconded by Trustee Rowan. Board minutes. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll vote, please. Thank you. Past 9-0. And Sarah, thank you for doing that. And we obviously don't say thank you enough for that kind of work that you do, so we appreciate it. Thanks, Sarah. Mr. Reid, the superintendent's report.
Thanks. Just a couple of highlights from the last couple of weeks. As Trustee Mania has already mentioned, just one final reminder that our Divisional PD Day will be held this coming Friday. We're into the final stages of planning and organizing, and yeah, we're very confident that we're going to offer an outstanding day to all of our employees, so we're looking forward to that. Last couple of weeks saw a few meetings here at the Education Center. We were able to bring in our school-based literacy leaders for a for a full day of learning. We brought our new teachers in for a full day of learning, and we had our crisis team in for a 1-hour meeting in the morning just to kind of get that group reset and, you know, prepared for the year. Of course, that's our team that, you know, will respond to a traumatic event anywhere in the school division if needed. So we actually hope that our inaugural meeting where we got together is the only time we see them as a group this year. And so, but having said that, it is a team that in the division has been together for a number of years, and they're very experienced, and every time they're in a school, they are definitely appreciated. So just skipping ahead, Trustee Manuel already reminded everyone about our divisional PAC meeting that's being hosted next Thursday, 6 o'clock here at SEC. And just for the information for the board, today Sarah was able to share with me that we do have reps from 7 schools attending, and for a total of 21 PAC members or parents from our schools, as well as 3 principals have indicated they would like to attend. So we will have a room full next Thursday, so that's great to hear. And again, just jumping ahead you know, this is something that goes on all year. But now is as good a time as any just to recognize all of our staff members in schools and parent volunteers who are making a contribution to our student athletes in our schools and who are coaching our sports teams. Some of those are some pretty big commitments in terms of the number of hours and days of the week that they put in. So like I say, now is as good a time as any to say thank you to all of our coaches who are investing in our students and our teams across the school division.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor. Well said, certainly about, and whether it's sports teams or any of the clubs at lunchtime or those kind of things, kudos to our staff that are putting things together. Any questions for Trevor? Trustee Rowland.
Trevor, the School Division's Connect and Learn Early Childness Readiness Program, where has that been run out of, or how is it being run now? I'm not that familiar since COVID, how they're doing that.
So I believe we are offering assessments around the division at least in 3 sites. I know we do some here in the Education Center. I know last year they were being done in the Springfield Library, and I believe they were also being scheduled in Whitemouth and Lac du Bonnet last year. And I believe those are the sites, but we do have them in different sites around the school division. So when our division staff connects with parents to see which is the site that's most convenient to them, we're connecting them to the closest geographic location.
Anyone else for Trevor? Thanks, Trevor. We're looking forward to certainly Friday and the work that your team's put together. Jen Baker kind of coordinating certainly a lot of the stuff for Friday, and it's a big undertaking. How many people do we have coming? Ballpark?
Probably close to just over 800. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. Go ahead, Trustee Harris. Why don't you share? We have a board reporting schedule that's available for information, and it's a great thing for us to always take a look at for what we're expecting coming up with information. It's there for information for us to continue to look. Go ahead, Trev.
Just one quick comment on the board reporting schedule. I don't recall if it was last meeting or the meeting previous. One of the trustees asked for an addition to one of the reports, and I walked away, and I'm always meant to come back to the board and say, you know, I've inherited this board reporting schedule, and I've inherited, you know, the reports as they were done previously. So my assumption is this is the information that the board would like to see, and this is the format the board would like to see it in. But certainly I just want to invite the board, if there's any reports that you feel are missing information or you'd like things added to, change in the format, whatever that case may be, I'm open to that feedback and, you know, would be ready to, you know, make those changes. So.
You just reminded me of one, so we'll talk later about it, so good. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Okay. So Secretary Treasurer Jody, I'm going to turn it over to you.
I'll keep it short and sweet because we had a lot of finance talk tonight about the auditor report. So it's a one-pager just to let you guys all know what the departments have been up to and what they've been busy with. So I think at this point in time, if anybody has any questions, I just wanted to flag from our last meeting, Superintendent Reed and myself were to attend a Board of Reference public hearing. That was canceled and it'll be rescheduled to a later date. But if anybody has questions on what the operation departments are up to, let me know, or if there's any clarification needed.
I just have a comment with our position that Lindsay Fernando has been filling with the app specialist. Over the last week and a half, I've been focusing on doing some work with her. Absolutely great. I've been very impressed with her level of support and things happening really quick.
Not everybody's going to understand, know who Lindsay is and app specialist, and so can you explain a little bit to that, please?
Lindsay had been working with ICT for a number of years with Sunrise, and we developed a position to focus on app support. So that's a pretty broad term, that the focus is primarily now on PowerSchool and what it all has to offer, because there's a lot of tools in there that we're not taking advantage of. So that position, being able to focus that time, I've been working on some suspension templates and stuff, and just the responses and her level of knowledge on everything has been fantastic. It's been super.
Thanks, Lars. Thanks for the update, certainly with that. And you know what, I think keep us posted with regard to, as we've got that position about, you know, throughout the years at working, what do we need to work on, those kind of things. But that's great to hear. Thank you. Board business. So 8.1 parent council status update. Is this you, Trev?
Yeah, primarily just there for information. The one thing that I can change is Centennial School. Their PAC is not to be announced. Yes, they do have a PAC. It is a very active PAC, and one of the groups that will be attending next week. So I'm not sure how the TBA got on there, but yes, they have a PAC. And then, you know, we do have 2 schools that don't have an active PAC, and they do continue to try and recruit and work with their parents to raise interest in the PAC. Probably not a coincidence that they are 2 of our high schools. We do have some high schools, or one direct high or one exclusive high school that does have a PAC, but I think it's always been noted that it's been more of a challenge to recruit and generate parent interest in our high schools as a general rule of thumb.
Trustee Rowan?
Just a suggestion. I know that the head of the Dougal Parent Council is changing. There's going to be a new leader there, and he's going to be attending next divisional PAC. So I'm suggesting that maybe we verify this information with anybody who attends, or try to update our list on that at that time. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Anyone else? Okay. So 8.2 is our divisional PACA update. Give it to you, Trev.
I was going to say, I think, Paul, this was one that you wanted on the agenda to speak to. I shared a little bit of information in the principal's report, just about the day and some of the people we had coming. I don't know if there was something that you wanted to add in addition to that.
Yeah.
No, this is what we talked about as a group, right? With regard to, this is what was going to be on our agenda. This is what we were going to have an icebreaker activity. Trevor and I are going to combine together with some opening remarks. We're going to talk a little bit about the role of the roles of Parent Advisory Council. These were the table group discussions and conversations. Have we missed anything from anybody? I think that's kind of what we talked about. Trevor's reminding me that it's our meeting, it's not Trevor's meeting, and he's right with it. And then we talked about that we would go ahead with a question and answer with any of the board, the trustees and parents that want to go ahead and have questions with us, and we'll do whatever we can, certainly, about answering those questions. Anyone else? Are we good? Okay, thanks, Trev, certainly for sharing that. Math, pacing, and sequencing. I think, Robin, that's you. This is part of you wanting to go ahead and do this, right? Okay.
So yeah, I believe this is a report, again, the board has seen in past years. It's just an update on our numeracy assessment project that we, use to deliver the provincial math curriculum here in Sunrise. Shouldn't be new information, but historically we've used the NAP program as a structure to deliver the provincial curriculum in our grade 6 to grade 9 classes, and that's been ongoing for a number of years. The new addition of note is this year we're adding our grade 5s into the mix. So we did a baseline assessment with our grade 5s last June, and this year will be spent with significant training for our grade 5 teachers in terms of how to use the program and the structures and the tools that the toolkit that goes with it. So.
Any comments or questions from the crew here with this? Trustee Boyson?
Just like you noted there that, the grade 7, 8 over the past few years have received, what do you do when a new teacher comes in? Do they get the training, and how do you?
So just learning to start, you use some language about how we appreciate. I did something I do want to note, actually. This report was compiled by one of our division principals, Jody Wilgosh, and so he was kind of the lead on the program leaders, and he compiled this and shared this with me, so thank you to him for putting the report together. Yeah, when we have new teachers come in, We cannot, of course, run them through the full set of training as when we implement at a grade, but there's a priority made by our numeracy program leader, Alan Stevenson, to connect with all the new teachers who are working across all grade levels in NAP each year to get them up to speed. And then as well as there's some of that cross-training that happens within the school with more experienced teachers and some mentoring and those types of things that happen. But yes, our new teachers, when they come in, they get a base level of training from Alan, from the divisional level, and then of course the mentorship at the school level from their colleagues.
Just a question. This had originally started like a pilot project, and we've expanded this project with ourselves. It's been discussed at MSBA, this approach. Has this become like a province-wide thing now, or like is still a finite group of schools that are using this program?
I couldn't say that it's with confidence that it's province-wide, but I would certainly say that there are more school divisions that are taking this approach that aren't. I would say I would definitely feel confident saying that it's the majority of school divisions are using this across at least some grade levels. I think the NAP actually has programming and structures all the way down to grade 2 now, I think grade 2 to 10. And so I know there are school divisions that are encompassing all of those grades. We just don't have necessarily the manpower and the training ability to implement all those at once, so we just keep walking it back as we get the opportunities to do so.
Don?
I'll try to answer my question.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Trev, for that. We now talk about the middle year's provincial assessment data for us.
You've got the report there, and this looks at our provincial assessment for grade 7 and 8 in the areas of numeracy and literacy, reading and writing. So the results are all there, and I think the third page is about the summary, and I'll speak to that. Across our English program, grade 7 and 8 students in Sunrise are performing, I think, as we would hope that they would. They're slightly above the provincial average in most areas. Not that we necessarily need to be better than the rest of the province, but it is nice to see that our students are doing well. And so see, we've got some competitive trustees nodding their heads that yes, we want to be we want to be better. But that's good for that. And then for our French immersion students, the results are quite mixed, and there's probably some different reasons for that, and I'll speak to that a little bit. But results for grade 7 numeracy are, again, very close to the provincial average, over in some of the domains slightly under than others, but I would say with confidence that our grade 7 immersion students are performing at a similar level to students around the province. When it comes to the reading and writing in English, our students in the French immersion program are performing lower than compared to their French immersion counterparts across the province. Not significantly, but it is noticeable. However, having said that, when you compare them to the English students in Sunrise and the English students in the rest of the province, they are performing better in their reading and writing in English. So they're doing better than English program students, not as well as their French immersion peers. Not sure what to make of that, but that's where the data is. The very curious part, though, is when we talk about grade 8 reading and writing in French, we are scoring lower than the provincial average for other French immersion students, and unusually lower in some areas, like odd data that we're getting through this assessment, and data that doesn't line up with our other indicators of performance that we take across the division in terms of things like our report card data. So I did review this a couple of weeks ago with Mr. Gasperti, our division principal, and said that we're going to have to talk to our French immersion schools and see what might be going on here. He actually, just by coincidence, had the meeting with our French immersion principals today, and this was a significant part of their agenda. We believe that kind of early returns on the conversation, doesn't have as much to do with our student performance and maybe our teacher expectations of, you know, what they think a student in grade 8 should be capable of. And the conversation between the principals today, one of the vice principals, who is actually a grade 8 teacher, who came to the meeting and said, yeah, maybe my expectations are too high, and maybe I do have more students meeting expectations than, you know, than I've indicated through the assessment results. So that conversation is going to continue. Like I say, the really curious part is this data doesn't line up with our other performance indicators that we've collected on our grade 8 students and their French immersion skills. It doesn't line up with, you know, the feedback we get from CPET when we send our grade 8s there in grade 9. So, like I say, I don't think there's any panic button here. It's more of a curiosity in terms of why is our data results, you know, not seem to be consistent with what we know about our French immersion students.
So we have a few French immersion schools. Are you finding the data consistent amongst the French immersion schools, or is there an outlier within the schools that we have within the division?
That honestly jumps around from year to year because more than half of our grade 8s are actually in one school, and then the other 2 schools have smaller cohorts that can be that can vary greatly from year to year. So I can give an example of Powerview School. That grade 8 cohort of students may only be 7 or 8 or 9 students in the French immersion. So depending on the cohort of students, some year they can score really well based on, you know, a couple of kids, and in other years they may be, you know, scoring not as well, again, based on just the swing of a couple of kids. And so when you've got those small data sizes, it's kind of hard to compare school to school.
I will say I have one testimony from a current grade 9 student who said, Dad, we are really well equipped. Oh, did I give it away? We are really well equipped compared to some other schools that feed into this, into Collège Pierre-Elliott Trudeau. So from her assessment, she felt really well prepared, and so kudos to those folks.
And that's why it's important anytime we collect one source of data that we don't invest too much into it. That we want to make sure that we've got comparable sources of data to make sure that what we're seeing is valid. And this is one of those instances that not sure that our provincial assessment data is valid because it doesn't line up with what we're seeing, you know, from other parts of the system. So.
No.
Anyone else for Trev? So Trevor, I agree with you 100% with regard to not taking a look at one set of data and, you know, being concerned, but I like what you've done with regard to bringing people together, start having collaboration and discussing what they need to go ahead and do. Obviously, assessment is from a number of different sources. That's one piece. Teachers are important. There's other assessments that are going on, and certainly if this happens year after year, yeah, you know what, maybe that you're taking a look at it. But I think that it's good that Mr. Gasperdi is meeting with our senior French immersion administrators, because that hasn't happened in a little while for us, and then going on and doing that. So kudos to that work and putting together some heads to figure out, okay, some of the next steps. Nice work. Anyone else? Okay, so we also have now the Colony non-instructional days update. I'm going to turn that to you, Trev.
Yeah, nothing to share on the screen for that one. There were several attachments there. 3 of the 4 attachments were actually from our meeting back in August when this issue came to light. Of course, the reminder is just that we were surprised by communication from the Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning when it was flagged that they weren't necessarily supportive of our extra colony religious holidays. The surprise being that this is something that we've done for many, many years in Sunrise without ever being questioned on it. So this year we were questioned on it. We made the request for an exemption, an alternate calendar for our colonies. The update is, one of the attachments is the letter from the Minister approving the different calendar for the colonies. Just one piece of the approval letter I would like to note, though, is it does say, please note that I've asked the department to work with you to explore options for maintaining the minimum required number of school days for Hutterite schools in the division in future years. So I actually do look forward to that conversation, because one of the questions I do want to get clarification on is why the change in approach from the province. And so we will wait for the minister's office to follow up with our school division and have that conversation when it comes up.
Thanks, Trevor. Any questions? Follow up? Okay. 8.6 is the Springfield Chamber of Commerce Annual Banquet and Business Awards, and I think this is Trustee Rowland. You've got this on. Is that correct? Okay. Floor is yours.
Just added this in here as an invitation that was sent to the board for 1 to 2 trustees to attend their awards night coming up on Thursday. Actually, we are members of the chamber, and we do have a seat on the board of the Springfield Chamber of Commerce, and they would ask for someone to come and represent the dinner, and I'm here to seek approval of somebody doing that. I just should add that having been a member of the Chamber of Commerce, that we have had some increase in scholarships that they've provided and funding for schools and equipment, and so the relationship has actually been developing really, really well. And they would like feedback even more so from our board as to how they can better serve us with, say, job fairs or work placements is something we'd like to work more on. And they are working at the high school, but at that level. So those are just comments I've heard from there.
So I kind of got us involved with the Springfield Chamber and been trying to get as many people involved, certainly through it, so kudos. So I'm not sure what you're asking for. Are you asking for basically to be able to go and the division, you can expense the cost of it? Is that what you're looking to do? Okay. So we need a motion then, and I don't know if is there anyone else that's interested in going? Okay. So then I'll make the motion that we ask Trustee Rowan to attend the annual banquet and award, the 8th annual banquet and business awards for the Springfield Chamber of Commerce, and cover her expenses. How did I do, Sarah? I'll hit. Sarah, you're the best. Okay, be it resolved that the board approved to sponsor Trustee Rowan to attend the Springfield Chamber of Commerce Awards Night at a cost of $85 per person. She's reading my mind. That's awesome. So I need a seconder to that motion. Seconded by Trustee Dent. We can do this by hand, or you do want? Okay. Any question to the motion? Sarah, I love it when a plan comes together. Yeah, take your time, Sarah. And as we're waiting for Sarah, I believe these are some of the things that we're talking about when we're talking about engagement that we need to be going ahead and doing. And I think it's all, going on behalf and wearing your nice little Sunrise name tag and going around and communicating. That is one of the things that I'm going to talk a little bit about on Friday with our staff very quickly, is about one of the goals of the board is about engagement. And so, you know what, we're encouraging the board members to get out to as many school division and functional and community events as possible to do this. So kudos around. We're good to go? So hearing none, we'll vote. Myself and Dustin. I could start singing too, to fill in some time. Dustin, you think that would be good? No worries there. It's all good. Okay. So it passed 8-1. Thank you for that. We have 8.7, Springfield Collegiate Institute, grade 11 and 12 boys volleyball. Be it resolved that the board approve SCI, grades 11, 12 boys volleyball trip to Brandon, November the 1st and 2nd, 2024, subject to the superintendent's approval. And a mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Dent, seconded by trustee Rowan. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Past 9-0, thank you. We have the Springfield Collegiate Grade 9 and 12 girls hockey trip to Toronto. Be it resolved that the board approve the Springfield Collegiate Institute Grade 9 and 12 girls hockey trip to Toronto, hockey team trip to Toronto on December 9th to the 13th, subject to the superintendent's final approval. Mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Rowan, seconded by trustee Dent. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Past 9-0, thank you. We have the École Edward Schreyer School. Be it resolved that the board approve in principle the École Edward Schreyer School Grade 7 trip to Assisipi Ski Hill, January 26th to 28th, subject to the superintendent's final approval. Moved by trustee Smith, second by trustee Harris. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Past 9-0. And be it resolved that the board approve in principle École Dugald School Grade 6 to 8 ski trip to Assisipi Winter Park, February 5th and 6th, subject to superintendent's final approval. Moved by trustee Rowland, seconded by trustee Rowan. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 9-0, thank you. So we have some committee updates here. So the policy committee, Chair Rowan, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's going on with the policy committee.
Thanks, Paul. Policy had our first meeting earlier this month, last week, I guess. And we spent a fair amount of time reviewing policies and procedures. I will say, Trustee Harris, we did take a look at the weather station for your recommendation, as you had sent an email saying that it looked like Weather Canada, or Environment Canada, sorry, had a weather station in Beausejour. However, we have since found that it no longer shows up, so we were unable to make that change. So we did look into it. But it wasn't there, so we couldn't make that change. We are bringing notice of motion for policies 1, 2, 3, and 12. I'll just kind of quickly go over here. Policy 1, we wanted to make it so that it was a little more clear. We also wanted to make sure that the policy was positive rather than potentially having some negative connotations. Policy 2, we changed some of the governance model points here so that they align with the STEM, because the way that they were reading, they didn't align with the STEM sentence at the top. Policy 3, we made a couple changes here. We have in here, the original policy talks about aspirations, but we don't actually define what our aspirations are. So we wanted to make some changes there to kind of align with what our current board is doing and how we're working towards our strategic plan. And then policy 12. We follow the provincial curriculum, so everything taught in our schools is appropriate. Therefore, we felt that having the word appropriate in there when it says all schools will implement appropriate, provincially approved curricula that support student learning about human diversity was a little redundant. So we will be bringing these to our next meeting to have a vote from the board. And are there any questions or comments?
Usually a notice a motion is just letting you know there's a motion. There should not be any comments because I got lots of comments, but this is not the place to do today. It is going to be next meeting, and there will be lots of comments, I'll tell you that.
So I think what you've done is great, and the committee is giving us a notice of motion. Don's right. It's part of it is, if Don wants to pick up the phone and give you a call tomorrow to ask you about something, certainly go ahead and do that. It will, when it comes back to it, Don, certainly, you know what, as we bring up the policy before and look at some debate, that's great as to where we are. So good work, kudos to the group as to where it is, and thanks, Melissa, for the update as to how the policy committee is going on. Any questions or comments? And expect a long meeting because Don's got lots of comments, you know, next time we get together. But no, kudos, thanks very much. I will share a comment is that in what I shared with you about MSBA in Region 3, one of the things on there, and Lorraine has brought it forward, is with regard to the new MTS contract and when schools, about school closures and closing for inclement weather. Do you want to talk anything about it? I didn't ask you, so I'm putting you on the spot, sorry.
Well, we had it on our agenda to discuss about school closures because winter is coming, but because it's also, we have to match something with the collective agreements, we just thought maybe we should talk about it at a regional meeting, see what other school divisions in the area, instead of recreating something, maybe that's already been created, because I'm sure they're discussing those kind of items too. So just have a discussion with our region to see what others are doing, and we'll be coming, I believe Trevor is going to be working on some changes for that for us.
Okay, so just so you know, on November the 1st, if you're coming to the meeting, is that you're going to be expected to talk a little bit about this subject with regard to inclement weather and what you think we should be doing or not doing, that kind of stuff. You can talk a little bit about what currently our proposal is, and I mean our policy is. Our policy, if there's temperature, and I think it's minus 25, minus 35 or something like that, when we close schools because of coldness, we expect our staff to report. When we close because of roads, we don't expect our staff to report. But I do believe that's going to change with the MTS contract. So just a little bit of a heads up and so that you're aware that when we get together November the 1st, I think that every school division is probably had very similar things to where we were, but there's now going to be a change because of the contract. Okay? And then part of it is if we close, what's our expectation of our staff? It's not to be, so I'm going to be open, I'll talk about it. It's not about the expectation of our, go ahead, Don.
I'm not aware this was on the agenda.
It wasn't, but you're expected to talk about it on November the 1st. And I just wanted to make sure that people are aware, so I sent you a list, and I sent it today, because I sent it out to all school divisions, that here's the list that we are. So we don't have to talk about it today, but you need to be prepared to talk about it on November the 1st, and it is your own opinion, it's not really Sunrise. But just so you know, you're aware, what is the expectation we have of our staff, on days when, if it's closing, what is the expectation of our staff? Okay. Anyone? Okay, let's move on. The Finance Committee. So this is Trustee Nichol. You want to give us an update as to your Finance Committee?
We have a Finance Committee on Thursday, so I'll give you an update next meeting.
Perfect. Work. The Education Foundation, Jody, did you want to bring anything there?
We're going to have a meeting on October 30th just to bring the new members on the committee up to date with what the current policies are. and then just continue on with creating policies, procedures, and probably the internal process when somebody wants to present or provide the school division a donation. What's that process going to look like? We have it documented, and now we're going to apply it because folks want to give us money, and they're new, either a new scholarship or a new donation. So what does that look like, and how does the internal workings look like with the Education Foundation? So that'll be the discussion.
Thanks, Jody. Any questions for Jody? Then we have the ad hoc land planning. Is there any update, Melissa?
No update at this time. We're still waiting on availability from Mr. Damon.
Okay. So a number of professional development items that are up here. The Northeast Man Municipal Forum. Please get information into Sarah if you're able to attend on the 21st. We have the MSBA regional meeting on November the 1st. Make sure you talk about that snow policy that's coming around. Capsule Conference, April 9th to the 11th. If you're going, if you're thinking of going, and if it's in Banff, you need to get onto it now. Because try to book a hotel room in Banff on February or March, you know, that's not going to be something that's there. So if you have interest in it, you should go ahead. CSBA Congress, it's in Winnipeg. Did we talk about the fact is that trying to get as many people to that as possible from here? We did talk about that, right? Everyone's booked? Thanks, Sarah. Okay. Any comments about professional development information? Okay. There's a Divisional Financial Summary Report. Jody, it's there for information. Did you want to talk about it?
I can definitely talk about it to the public and to the board. I think in the past I'll pull it up on the screen, just taking some time. I think in the past we've always identified in our Divisional Financial Summary Report the school division is going to be in a deficit situation, a budgeted deficit situation. And what that means is the school division, to balance our books, we wanted to pull at least $673,000 from our accumulated surplus to balance those books. So in order to dip into our accumulated surplus, we need to show a deficit in our financial statements. So this year we did plan to run a deficit and dip into our accumulated surplus. In the report, I've done a high-level summary report. We had the presentation from the auditor that we do follow procedures and practices, and it's not information that we're hiding or anything like that. But this year we are running into a $1.8 million deficit under our operating financial statements. Majority of that has been planned. It seems like a large number. People who hear that number will be shocked. We do work with a $74 million budget. So we would be talking about big numbers as it is. But when it comes down to, well, what is this $1.8 million deficit all about? Well, out of that, we knew we were going to commit $673,000. So that was already earmarked. So we know that. Then we have about $1.2 million to work with. Out of that, we had to deal with our settlement or our contract that the teachers did settle at the end of August. The contract, I believe, was ratified at the end of August. And then early September, they called, and when I say call, it's Manitoba School Boards Association. They met with all school divisions on September 6th with more information to follow shortly after. So after September 6th, the division was able to see and review the full contract. It's about 256 pages. It's available online on the MSBA website. So after the second week of September, we were able to collect and calculate all the entitled retro pay that all our teachers are entitled to. So in the month of September, we were looking at retro pay. We know we're going to pay retro to 509 employees. We know in the collective agreement that there's going to be interest paid on those calculations as well, dating back to 2022. September of 2022 is how far we go back to our retro calculations. So when we look at all that, we did put money aside in planning that we knew that there was going to be a contract settlement. We knew it will happen. We just didn't know what time of year or fiscal period. So we do know that in 2023, because our books were still open, even though our year end ends June 30th, we knew in August, since we were being notified by MSBA and STA, and Serena Kloss was wonderful at keeping us aware of where the stages were with the contract settlement, that we knew that there will be some accounting and accruals in the world of accounting. We call it accruals. We knew we had to identify potential liabilities for paying out teachers, and then considering all our other contracts are going to be settled, we have to earmark that as some expectation. With that, we factored that into the calculation. So with that being said, there was additional monies that we needed to find to factor in for retro pay accrual. So we're looking at about $1,050,000 that we had to consider. So that was anticipated, just not in the year 2023-24. We did anticipate eventually. So that's what basically, I hate to say, upped our deficit, but it was one of the factors in there. When we consider the deficit that we planned, the retro pay we have to consider, as well as the budgeted or the planned purchase of a bus being funded from accumulated surplus, we consider that all that to come out of accumulated surplus. And again, to utilize our accumulated surplus, we have to reflect a deficit to dip into that. So when we factor in all those considerations that we knew we were going to budget out of accumulated surplus and what we knew for current and future liabilities, with that all being factored, and if should the contract been settled, say in December, after our year end, after tonight, or even after our financial statements are due October 30th. So if the contract was settled, say November 1st, then we might not have had to reflect all the accruals that we did. So if in a hypothetical situation we did not do that, we could have just reflected a operating surplus of about $14,000. So if we didn't dip into our accumulated surplus due to retro considerations and contract obligations, our financial situation would have been a little bit different. We wouldn't be sitting in a $1.8 million. We'd be identifying still the $180,000 for a bus and $673,000 for regular operating. But after we net all the expenses and revenues, we would have been sitting at least the difference of $14,000 to the good. So it's a different situation this year, only because of the calculations and considerations for retro. And in past financial divisional summary reports, we've always identified that we're going to be utilizing the deficit. It was just a matter of how much above or below the budget amount. So anybody have questions on that?
Open it up. Trustee Nicol.
What I'm hearing is that if the agreement had settled in November, we would have a $14,000 deficit. But next year, instead of having, because we have to still pay that money out, so we had to pay in 24-25. So in having a surplus of, what was it, something like $500,000, we would have a deficit next year of about 1.1 million, maybe a little bit more.
Yes and no, it depends on how we all budgeted. So at the end of the day, you're right. After everything settled and done, if everything took place next year, yes, you're right. We would be sitting at a surplus of about 550,000 if we looked at a 2-year period. Correct.
I'm going to try and explain it in Paul's mind the way it works. Paul's mind says is that we didn't overspend 1 point whatever million dollars without a plan. We had a plan for it. We planned a $673,000 deficit, and we knew we had money somewhere for it. We knew that we had to pay retro pay from a contract, and we put money aside to go ahead and do that. We decided as a group to buy a bus, and we had money aside in a surplus for us to buy a bus. However, we did have to go ahead and show that we did run a deficit, but we did have a surplus of money tucked away in underneath in my mattress, in all of our mattresses, to cover the cost. Is that a fair statement? So I think that, yes, oh my gosh, it's a $1.8 million deficit, but we planned for it, the 9 of us, with, Jody helped us out a bit. But we planned for it and we tucked the money away. And however, we do have to show it that it is a deficit in that one period of time. But Jody and Trevor didn't go ahead and overspend $1.8 million. All right? So if somebody was coming and saying, oh, Paul, you overspent $1.8 million, no. Well, yes, we did overspend, but we tucked all that money away and we planned for it so that we could come and get it out of our mattresses, so that it wasn't that that it shows that we spent extra money that we didn't have. We planned for it. Is that fair, Dustin?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think also, too, it's a reminder that it's one-time costs. So it's not that it's necessarily that these are ongoing commitments that are then going to force us to run a deficit in following years either. So I think that that's important to know.
Anyone else? So Jody, thanks for explaining it that way, because as you started explaining it, it kind of helped me in my brain figure it out. We also had quite a robust conversation with the auditor tonight, certainly about that. And that's the explanation that we got from the auditor as well as to where we were. So kudos certainly as to me getting a better, thank you for all of you for helping out in that, for me getting a better understanding myself about where we are. Anyone else? Okay, let's keep going. So that was the 10.1. We had board correspondence, nice to know information. Yeah, that nice to know information, that means that some teams gonna do really well if you had a chance to read it, I guess, there. Press releases, questions from the public. Jody, do you have any questions from the public?
No, nothing from the public.
Okay, so we do need to move back into in-camera, so if we need a quick break, can we take 3 or 4 minutes and come back at 10 to 9? And we will potentially have some motions out of in-camera as to where we go, but we'll see where we get to. So 10 to 9, let's go back into in-camera, and if you need a break, take a break.